All right, I'll go ahead and get started. So thank you for joining today. We are the online computer science MS at Clemson University. We're within the School of Computing. You'll learn of stuff about our university today, our school today, and about this online program that we're doing in partnership with Coursera. It's very exciting. So to kind of get us started, I'll kind of work right to left here. So I'm Becca Spilka. I'm a graduate student services coordinator here at Clemson. I work exclusively with our online MSCS students. You're probably going to see my name a lot. If you ever have any questions about Clemson or the program, you're probably going to end up seeing my name when you reach out. We also have our MS program coordinator on here today, Carlos Cabrera. Carlos, do you want to kind of give a quick intro of yourself?
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Carlos Cabrera. I'm a faculty member and I oversee both the online and the traditional master's program here in computer science for the school. Thank you very much for joining us.
Awesome, thank you. And we also have our director of School of Computing, and he also teaches one of our classes, Dr. Brian Dean. Brian, would you want to introduce yourself really quick?
Sure. So thank you for joining us today. It's really exciting to have such a high level of interest in this program. In our School of Computing, we worked very hard in our faculty to design this program so that it allows us to reach an exciting population of students that we wouldn't be able to reach before and offer them a cutting edge computing curriculum that will hopefully help them, boost their careers and learn some very interesting things. So it's been a lot of fun so far. I'm definitely very much enjoying the class that I'm teaching at the moment. I get to work with some amazing individuals in that class. But glad to have you join us and hope we can help answer any questions you have in the webinar today.
Thank you. All right. So moving on, we'll talk a little bit about Clemson and then we'll kind of drill down into the school level. So Clemson was founded in 1889 as an agricultural college, but it's currently renowned for its programs in engineering, computing, business, and agriculture still. It is a top public land grant school in the upstate of South Carolina. Kind of that little picture right there sort of gives you an idea of where we land in South Carolina. We are a Carnegie R1 research institution, so a huge focus on research at our university. We serve about 22,000 undergraduate students and 5,500 graduate students, and that's growing by the day. And we are situated on a 1,400-acre campus right at the foothills of the Blue Ridge Mountains and near Lake Hartwell. It's a really beautiful campus, so if you're ever able to visit, definitely come out. We're in kind of a rural area, but it's a really nice place to visit. We are made up of 9 academic colleges. I swear we keep adding colleges by the day. Our college is the College of Engineering, Computing, and Applied Science, or CCAS, you might hear us say a lot. And so then within CCAS is the School of Computing, which is where we're situated. So the School of Computing has 3 main research divisions, which are computer science, obviously, visual computing, and human-centered computing. And so that human-centered computing also brings a really interesting dynamic to our program, and we've kind of incorporated some of that into this online program, which you'll learn a little bit more about today. Some of our research areas include artificial intelligence and machine learning, quantum computing, biological and healthcare informatics. We have a BDSI program. That's a really cool program. Embedded sensors and systems, computer vision. There's so much. The list goes on and on. We do have a really strong focus on innovation and collaboration and kind of cutting edge research so that our students are really involved in some of that really like cutting edge and emerging technologies. And then we also, on the flip side, really try to incorporate some of that cutting edge technology into our curriculum in order to prepare students for really successful careers in industry. All right. Brian, do you want to add anything about the School of Computing as he is our director?
I think that's a good summary. So we kind of take a big tent view on computing. So it's not just computer science, it's computing, which I view as a broader discipline that focuses not just on the technical aspects of building systems and programming and software development, architecture, those types of things, but also how technology interfaces with society and with humans. That's kind of the focus of our human-centered computing division, and it also plays into kind of some of the themes behind our new online master's program. Definitely exciting times in computing right now. We've seen a huge amount of growth in our School of Computing. We have over 1,000 undergraduates and several hundred graduate students right now in the School of Computing. So there's a lot of momentum, as you guys are all aware of, in areas like artificial intelligence right now that are driving a lot of demand in computing. So exciting times to be in computing. I think the field is going in interesting directions. Lots of really cool applications that you can address with the skills that you can learn in modern computer science.
Awesome, thank you. All right, so I do want to kind of jump into a quick poll and ask, what are you hoping to learn here today? So that should be launched shortly, and I'll kind of give you guys a second to answer the question. So it looks like we have some people interested in learning about the curriculum, which we'll definitely get into.
Yes.
Some admissions requirements, we'll definitely get into that. The online student experience, we'll get into that. Tuition costs and financing, and then more about computer science as a field. So we won't touch on that too much today, but definitely feel free to ask questions. We will have a Q&A session at the end. So if you see there's a Q&A box, please feel free to drop your questions as we go along and kind of chat about those things. Awesome. So we'll move forward. So the next thing we'll talk about is the program overview. And actually, I was just having a conversation with Dr. Dean the other day about the online program and kind of the vision for it. So the focus of the curriculum is really AI and machine learning with a human-centered approach. And he described this as sort of like two sides of the same coin. So on the first side, we have the technical knowledge of computer science, AI, and machine learning. So this program is still very much a computer science MS. You're definitely getting a lot of that like foundational and technical knowledge. You're diving deep into these really like technical principles. And you'll see that as we kind of get into the curriculum. And so you are really getting that like strong foundational knowledge and a technical understanding of, AI and machine learning and computer science as a general field. And the way I think of it is that this is supported by this necessary expansion in the job market of artificial intelligence. So we're seeing AI pop up everywhere, just in our everyday lives right now. And obviously that creates just an absolute spike in jobs. I know that oftentimes we think of AI as replacing jobs, but actually studies show that for every job it displaces, AI is going to replace that job with another job and then add an additional 12 million jobs over the next couple of years. So we're definitely going to see a lot of job growth and an expanding job market in AI. So that's really exciting. And then on the flip side of that coin is this human-centered approach. So it's really thinking about like the people that are interacting with AI. As I said, it's literally everywhere now. It's in your computers, it's in Google, it's everywhere, and ChatGPT is like becoming such an integrated part of our society. And so it becomes important to start thinking about how humans are interacting with this like really technical thing and understanding it. And this is the need to take that ethical and responsible adoption of AI. So, AI can kind of reaffirm lots of biases. People aren't always aware of like the best way to use it. And maybe also there's a lot of ethical considerations that go into the development of the actual AI and the implementation of AI. So thinking about the ways that we can incorporate that from start to finish, it becomes an integral part of this program as well. Brian, do you want to add anything on to that?
I think that covers it well. So I think that sort of balanced outlook on kind of AI as a core emphasis area is maybe what differentiates our program from many others. The space is quite saturated in terms of if you'd like to find an online program that teaches you about AI, but you might not find programs out there that kind of look at things from this sort of dual perspective like we do.
Absolutely. All right. So now we'll kind of move into the program curriculum. So the first two courses that we're offering are technically our PBA courses, and what that means is performance-based admission. And that might be the first time you're hearing that. You might be like, oh, I know exactly what that is. I just want to know more details about that. I will get into the details of that later. But what this basically means is for most of you, these two courses are going to be your introduction to the program. So the first course is CPSC 8400 Design and Analysis of Algorithms, and that is taught by our very own Dr. Dean right here. So I'm going to once again pass it to him and let him talk a little bit about his class.
And really, whether or not that's a good thing is still very much a subject of debate. But so yes, I'm one of the instructors that students will have to suffer with for their introductory class in algorithms. But yeah, happy to answer any questions or concerns you have about my class. We also have Dr. Radagero, who's the instructor of the AI receptive software development class with us. So we're happy to go into the details of that when appropriate. So.
Yeah, so I'll go ahead and pass it to Paige, who's online with us as well. And she is the instructor for our AI receptive software development class.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Paige Radagero, and hopefully you don't feel like you're struggling through my class. That's not the goal. And Brian's making a joke because we have a joke that his class is hard, which is true to be. But anyhow, it's great to have you here, and I'm looking forward to answering any questions that you have. So I'll hand it back to Becca.
Yeah, and so I will also plug that the last webinar we did was actually a deep dive into their classes, and we spent a lot of time with both of them talking about the details and going through Q&As on each of their classes. So I would absolutely recommend that you go back and watch that if you want to learn more about the PBA classes. They're really cool classes and a really interesting introduction into the program. You can find that webinar on YouTube. Usually I should have included a link here and I apologize for that. But if you just search up like Clemson Coursera webinar, it should come up. And so moving on to spring. So our next class, our sort of next rollout is our spring 2025 classes. So ideally, I think in the future, these courses will be offered every semester, but we are sort of starting out this program initially right now, which means these courses are kind of slowly rolling out. So that's kind of why you're seeing like a designated semester for each one right now. But so the courses that will be offered in the spring are CPSC 6300 Applied Data Science. And so this is just kind of giving you some applied knowledge in the data science field, kind of digging into those data science topics. It'll be taught by Tim Ransom, who we just brought on as a new faculty member recently. So that'll be a really cool class. It's very popular here for our on-campus students. The next class is CPSC 6620, which is database management systems. Again, just a really good foundational knowledge of how to interact with databases, taught by Professor Connie Taylor and Roger Van Scoy. And they are great professors, super duper popular here amongst our on-campus faculty. And this is a really great class that people love to take as well. And everyone everywhere uses databases, so super useful. And then the last class is HEC 6600. And this is a newer class focused on human-centered AI. And that's taught by Dr. Carlos Hernandez. And this course kind of starts to tie in those human-centered approaches to some of these more technical AI concepts. So, everything from the ethical and societal impacts of AI to like AI design. So these are really cool hands-on courses to kind of get you going in the program after the PBA. The other thing I do want to mention is that we are planning to do a webinar to talk more in depth about these courses. So you may go back and watch Dr. Dean and Dr. Rodaguerjo's webinar on YouTube. You're welcome to join us in December and we'll do a deeper dive on each of these courses. So that'll be really exciting. The next three courses that we plan to roll out are CPSC 6140, and that's our human-computer interaction. Again, this is a course we've been offering for quite some time. It kind of establishes a strong like historical and theoretical background of the field of human-computer interaction. So a great course there. And then we'll also be offering some of these 8,000 level, like more technical courses. So CPSC 8650 data mining. and CPSC 8430 deep learning. And so those will start digging into those more technical concepts and really hone your skills in those areas. And finally, in spring 2026, we're rolling out 2 brand new courses, and I've been helping these professors build out their course proposals. So that's been really exciting and super interesting. So these are kind of tentatively named since they're still in the proposal approval process, but they seem like really exciting courses that are both going to kind of fill a gap on our on-campus program, but also provide a super well-rounded program for you guys online. So HCC 8600 is tentatively named Applications of Human AI Interaction, Collaboration, and Teaming. So that's a big mouthful, but what that basically means is you're kind of looking at these super cool new emerging AI technologies in a really, really like hands-on applied approach and thinking about the way that humans are collaborating with those things and how can we build, AI systems that are interacting and collaborating with humans in a really ethical way. So understanding that those technologies from a technical perspective, but also really honing in on how to interact with those from, a human and ethical perspective. And then the next course is a little bit earlier on in the process, so we don't have a course number for it yet, but it will be like a CPSC 8000 level course, and it's tentatively named Generative AI Technical and Human Perspectives. And the overview I kind of got of this one is that it's going to be sort of 1/3 of large language models and sort of like text generative AI, and then 1/3 sort of more like image-based and like AI generated content, and then 1/3 of that like human-centered approach. So looking at these really like technical chunks of generative AI, and then lastly thinking about like the human-centered approach and kind of like marrying all these ideas together with those ethical perspectives in mind. So yeah, a really cool curriculum rollout. We're very excited and we think it's come together to make something that we think is going to be really cool and really address these kind of like up and coming challenges in the field of AI and that emerging technology. Awesome. Brian, I'm going to give you one last time to add anything if you want to, because then we'll get into more of the sort of like platform and resources content.
I guess in terms of my class, common questions that I get in these webinars, one of them is kind of what are the expectations or prerequisites that students need for my class? And we have tried to design my class, and I think the entire degree program, in a way that hopefully minimizes prerequisites, because the kind of diversity of the population of potential students that are interested in this program make it such that it's difficult to kind of put too many strict prerequisites on these classes, because people are coming from very different backgrounds. A lot of them have a computing background, but from kind of ancient times, when they took computer science maybe 20 years ago. Maybe they're coming in from kind of computing adjacent disciplines. So we've tried to design these classes in a way that is accommodating for students with a variety of different backgrounds. So in my class, we try and start at the beginning and not make too many assumptions about what you have seen before in terms of algorithms, data structures, discrete mathematics. There are, of course, a couple of concepts that it would be advantageous to know a little bit about in certain areas of the class. When we talk about optimization, knowing how to take a derivative is a useful concept for things like gradient descent. And we won't take too many detours into the fundamental mathematics that's necessary in those areas. So you might have to read a few Wikipedia pages along the way, but we've designed the class to hopefully make it that sort of thing not overwhelming or scary. So even if there are a few side topics that you're brushing up on as we go, it should be quite manageable, hopefully. That's one of the main questions. And then are there any other questions in the chat that would be useful? I guess what programming languages and programming background comes up a lot as well.
Yeah, like what
For my
language
class, I
should you
guess
know?
we do have programming assignments that you can answer in either C/C++, in Java, or in Python. So it is treat it as a prerequisite that you know how to write code in one of those one of those three languages. We don't teach you the programming in advance. So definitely come in with some knowledge of programming. That will definitely help.
Awesome. Thank you. I think it definitely helps. That is a common question we get. So thank you for adding that. Having that prerequisite knowledge or knowing what prerequisites to come in with. We don't really, like Brian said, have any strict prerequisites other than an undergraduate degree in some field. But definitely coming in with some of that technical knowledge, some discrete math, and knowing how to code because we won't teach you how to code. And I think Dr. Rodriguez, her biggest prerequisite is knowing how to code. So yeah, so coming in with some of that sort of baseline knowledge and maybe doing some self-study, or if you've worked as a software engineer and you're just kind of looking to enhance yourself through a master's degree, you'd probably be really set up to come through this program, even if you don't have some of that really like formal prerequisite knowledge from like an undergraduate degree in the last like 2 years, you know. All right, cool. So next we'll kind of move forward to talk about the Coursera platform and the Clemson community. So this is kind of like the resources that you'll gain as a student here. Before we get into that, I'm going to do another quick poll and just find out when was the last time that you were in a classroom. So that should be launched now. Right. Well, it looks like we have quite a mix. So it's looking like most people, it's been 1 to 3 years, maybe. We have at least 50% though, that's 4+ years. So 25% at 4 to 10 years and 25% at 10+ years. So a good kind of spread here, really like even spread. So yeah, so this program is definitely designed for people who come from a variety of backgrounds and like Brian was kind of saying, like if it has been a while since you brushed up on these topics or have taken classes, there's kind of hope that there is that easement into the classes and the knowledge. So yeah, we're excited to have you kind of be interested in coming back or sticking around if it has been less than a year. So we do have a couple people in that range. Very exciting. Cool. So first, I'm going to kind of go over the Coursera platform. So this is a fully online and asynchronous program. What that means in the context of kind of Clemson is not necessarily that you can enroll in the class at any time and take, a year to do the class. It is still within our semester schedule. So we have our fall semester and our spring semester. We're not currently offering classes over the summer, just fall and spring. And so within that fall and spring semester, you would register for classes and then you would kind of complete your course content throughout the semester. So typically there are some deadlines along the way for assignments or quizzes and there is like a final exam period where you may either do a final exam or a final project or something like that. But the benefit being that there is no class time that you're kind of like trucking to get to, or like you're not, off in the lobby of your office, like trying to like take your Zoom class in the middle of the day. You can access the content for this at any time, and you can complete that course content when it's the most convenient for you. So that's what we mean by asynchronous content. And then it is fully online. So no expectation to have to come into Clemson or have to come into a classroom if that's not the right fit for you. It's really designed for working professionals, so that you can kind of take your time and work your way through the program at your pace. So the next thing that the Coursera platform kind of brings and that the Coursera group kind of brings to the table is this idea of performance-based admission, which is really a cool, awesome thing to get rid of some of those barriers to entry into graduate school. So what this basically means is that you do not have to do any formal application at any point. I'll get into the specifics of the process a little bit later on, but generally speaking, you would just have to submit an enrollment form and then you would register classes either in the fall or spring semester. And that if you pass both of the PBA classes with a B or better, then you get full admission to the MSCS program. So at no point do you have to do like letters of recommendation or take the GRE, or like if you're an international student, you don't have to take any kind of like language exam. So you kind of skip all of that sort of like all the little things that you have to do to come to graduate school that can feel overwhelming and silly if you've been out in the field for like 10 years just working as like a software engineer. So yeah, so you're just kind of like proving that you can do the content and then coming in and we're like, welcome in. So yeah, so it's a really cool, exciting process. And we have some people in PBA right now that I think are having a really great experience with Dr. Dean and Dr. Redigero. And so we're excited to have you guys potentially come on board with us as well. Oh, also, I completely forgot. This is very important. The only prerequisite is that you do have to have a bachelor's degree in any field. So your bachelor's degree does not have to be in computer science. It could be in, you know, English, and then maybe you just happen to be working in computer science, or you're kind of like looking to change fields and doing a lot of self-study. But it does have to be a bachelor's degree from an accredited university. And usually that we're looking at like a 4-year bachelor's degree for people outside the US kind of looking to figure out an equivalent. All right. So the next kind of cool thing about the Coursera platform and the Coursera company is that they do provide 24-hour support for their platform. So if you're ever having issues with like the platform itself, like any technical problems, they're there to support you at any point during the day. So they act as a really cool resource for that kind of thing. But then also if you ever have questions, you reach out to them and they'll route you to the right resource here at Clemson. And then that way you're like ready to go as soon as like we don't work on a 24-hour schedule, but you are there right in our queue as soon as we come into work. And that can be really, really useful in the sense that you don't have to go hunt down the right person to ask or like figure out what question you're even asking. It's just a one-stop shop. And then we're here, the Coursera is here to help you, and we're here to help you. And there might be some issues that they can help you resolve as well. They're a super great team and they're learning more and more about Clemson every day. And so they're just a great support system to kind of help our students and guide them to the right place. Awesome. And then the Coursera platform itself does offer real-time customized feedback. And we have office hours. So the real-time customized feedback basically means that when you're doing like a test or a quiz or even like a lab assignment, you're getting like direct feedback about what you did wrong, what you might need to like refer back to, why it might be wrong. So there's like a lot of immediate feedback that you don't necessarily get in a classroom environment. Oftentimes you're taking a quiz and then you don't get that quiz back until like two days later, a week later, and you don't immediately kind of get that feedback and those reference points of things to go back to. So this is a really, really dynamic platform that allows you to sort of like review that content as you're going along. So that's a really useful tool. And then we do offer office hours. So our instructional faculty and staff is offering office hours throughout the semester for you to come and talk to them if you are having sort of those like bigger problems or you're just really struggling to work through an issue. And then there's also a Slack platform where you can interface with students. I know occasionally we have some like faculty and staff that do interact with the Slack platform. I don't want to guarantee it for anyone, but sometimes that is an option. But it's definitely an option to get in touch with your fellow classmates. And then you can kind of be like, hey, I'm really struggling with this concept. Can anyone like kind of walk me through it? Help me figure out how you understand it. So definitely a good resource to kind of like get in touch with your fellow students and touch base on those kinds of things. Cool. So then moving into talking about the Clemson community. So one of the questions we get a lot is, like, am I an online student? Like, what is my position here? And you are a fully Clemson student. So from the second that you sign up, you get your Clemson account, just like everyone else. You have a Clemson ID, a Clemson login. So you are a fully Clemson student. Your transcripts are identical to any other Clemson student, and your diploma at the end looks just like an on-campus student. It just says Computer Science MS from Clemson. It doesn't even say that it was online. So it is a really nice way to feel collaborated into Clemson's community. You have access to all the resources. Yeah, and we're gonna get into more of those shortly. One big question we get obviously is financials. So we do have a sort of pay-as-you-go tuition model, and basically by that we mean that you'll only pay for the classes that you're registered for in that semester. So you don't have to pay upfront for all 10 classes right off the bat, or 30 credits is what the program is. You'll just pay for those classes that you're registered for in that given semester. And there's options for payment plans. If you kind of want to spread out the payments that don't have any interest, it's just like a small fee to get started on it. So that's always an option as well. We do not offer federal financial aid. However, we definitely encourage, if you have any ability to kind of get support from your employer, or if you have any other scholarships or any other funding you kind of want to explore, definitely reach out and we can kind of chat and see if that would be an option. Our financial aid office is super duper helpful, and Coursera is really helpful with kind of touching base on those resources as well. So that is also the tuition fee payment. So it is $676 per credit hour. And each class is always 3 credit hours. So for one class, it would be $676 times 3. And then it is $103 per semester fee. So if you end up taking a few extra semesters, like if you do the program a little slower, it would be just slightly more because you have that per semester fee as well. All right, so next, you do, as a Clemson student, have access to career resources and support through kind of the campus network. So I am a Clemson employee, and when you reach out and email me, I'm pointing you directly to other Clemson resources right here on campus. And they can touch base with you virtually as well. Because we do have, other online students and online resources. So you have access, to our Michelin Career Center, which is a great career center that offers things like mock interviews, resume review. It also hosts its own job board. That's the word. It's called Clemson Job Link. And it lists a lot of local opportunities, since it is sort of our industry partners, but with remote work becoming more and more common, it has options, and then it also lists, positions all over the country as well. So you kind of have access to those opportunities, and then you have access to the library resources, you have access to the Academic Success Center if you have any accommodation needs, things like that. So access to all the Clemson resources. And then finally, graduation and on-campus events. So kind of speaking of back to those career resources, we do host career fairs, and we host lots of events within the school. And so if we have on-campus events, you are welcome to attend, and we encourage you to attend and get involved in the Clemson community. I've also been sending out resources to some of our online events. We have seminars every week from visiting professors, and those always have a Zoom link to join. So I always send that out to our online students. And we have a program called Grad 360 that offers all kinds of online workshops. So you're always welcome to attend those. So any online events, of course, welcome to attend. If you're in the area, if you're a local, or if you just want to travel here, if you're coming here for a football game, you are welcome to attend any of our on-campus events that we might have going on. And then graduation. And we would love to have you here for graduation when you kind of reach that milestone. Really, you just mark that you're attending the graduation ceremony, and then you make your plans and you come and you walk across that stage. So yeah, that's very exciting that you kind of get involved and be a part of those programs. Cool. All right, so all of that, if it all sounds great to you and you're like, how do I get started? You keep talking about PBA. What exactly is the process for that? So there's no formal application process, as I mentioned before, no letters of recommendation or anything like that. You just do the enrollment form, which is a really simple form. It's just some general, like, demographic information about yourself, like your name and your address, things like that. And then you also need to include an unofficial transcript. We'll need your official transcript later on once you finish your first semester, but at first it's really just a copy of your unofficial transcript so we can validate that you have a bachelor's degree. And then once you've submitted that form, you would get like your Clemson login information and you'll register for the 2 PBA courses, CPSC 8400 and 8740. And you'll take your courses and you're gonna do really great. And then once you receive your grade, you have to pass both of the classes with a B or better. You receive full admission to the MSCS. So super simple process. And those 2 courses count towards your degree. So you kind of saw on that curriculum rollout, that was the 10 courses that you have to take. So those 2 BBA courses, you're making progress on your degree before you're even admitted to the program technically. So that's very exciting. So if you're ready to get started right now, then you can scan the QR code on the screen and you can hit the Enroll Now button and you can submit your enrollment form right now. If you have more questions, you can also use that request info button. We will have a Q&A session shortly, but if you kind of follow up to this and you're thinking, and then, any other questions come to your head, please feel free to hit that request info button. That gets you in touch with one of the Coursera enrollment counselors. Our enrollment counselors are super duper great resources. I talk to them all the time when they have questions, but they also are a wealth of knowledge about Coursera and about Clemson. Their names are Carolyn Carpenter and Katie Davis, and they're awesome. So definitely hit that request info button, even if you have like the smallest question, because they're great resources and they will, get that answer for you and make sure that you feel comfortable in everything that you're doing. Some dates to throw out there. Registration does open November 6th. Don't be scared. I know that's super soon, but there are no caps on our classes for the PBA enrollment. So please feel free to kind of take your time and think about it. The main deadline you really want to think about is January 8th. So enrollment closes on January 8th, and that is also our semester start date. I know it's like, oh, I can just do it on January 8th. And you can, but I would recommend doing it a little bit earlier if you kind of like are trying to make your decision. You can always drop the classes if you change your mind or anything like that. You don't have to pay for them until I think it's like the week before classes start or like right when you register. So definitely try to get your forms in a little bit earlier just because that sets you up to not have to miss out on anything like right at the beginning or feel like you're getting caught up or are behind. So yeah, so all through January 8th, be thinking about it. Or if you're ready to go right now, you can just scan that QR code and you're off. So we will shift into our Q&A session. So I'm going to pull that up. So I see a question about after graduation, what career support will a student get? So you do enter the Clemson Alumni Network, and I believe that there is still alumni access to that Clemson Job Link board. And there's lots of research. I'm not an expert, unfortunately, in alumni support. If you reach out to one of the enrollment counselors, and they can maybe put you in contact with me or kind of remind me of that question, and we can definitely kind of find out what more of those alumni resources are. But we do have a really, really strong alumni network, and Clemson is a really well-known school. So that's always really exciting to kind of become part of that network after graduation. I do see a question about credit transfers. So like if you're going to another institution right now and you're wanting to come to Clemson, feel free to come. But will any of your courses transfer? So typically how that process works is, again, I would say get in touch with an enrollment counselor. And if you can, send them, a copy of your transcript. And if you have it, a copy of the syllabus for the courses that you're looking to transfer, and then they'll get that over to us and we can review it and see if there's any if we're able to transfer any courses. The policy is that you can only transfer 3 courses, but we do usually have to be a little bit strategic about transfer courses. Something I didn't mention before is that these courses are a subset of our on-campus program. And so what that means is there's kind of a couple requirements that are happening in the background that you may not be aware of. You're meeting all of the requirements, and we've kind of baked that into the program for you so that you don't have to think about it. But if you are transferring in some credits, we just want to make sure that you're not missing out on any of those requirements. I see a question about it would be great if professors can give some light on ongoing research at Clemson. Dr. Dean or Dr. Rodiero, do you want to talk about any research that you're doing or you're aware of that's going on?
That's a dangerous question to ask a professor what their research
Yes.
is about. The webinar only has a certain amount of time. I'll just give you the 25-cent version of what I do in some of my current research. So I collaborate with a lot of neuroscientists to look at problems involving the application of artificial intelligence to neuroimaging data. So like you'll scan your brain with a MRI or EEG, and then try and predict if you have Alzheimer's disease or epilepsy, things like that, and looking for structural patterns in terms of how connectivity happens in your brain that are similar between these different neurological disorders, and kind of using tools from data science and AI to address those problems.
So I can talk about mine, but I also want to mention there's like so many different things going on with research in our faculty. We're also working on bringing 4 new faculty in, so they will bring in their own research as well. Maybe I think that'll be fall 2025. So lots going on, and like there is stuff on the School of Computing website about the research and areas that we have, and you can like dive deeper into them. I do software engineering research. Primarily, I look at how developers develop. That is in the code base. It can be in higher up in the team base as well. So I do like a lot of like high level and low level stuff where I work with companies. I love working with industry to solve problems. And right now, I've been working with GitHub for a couple years, and we're working on a way for retention to GitHub repositories that are larger and newcomers come into and they're overwhelmed. There's a lot of research on how like newcomers are overwhelmed when they come into a open source project. They're more likely to just leave and not contribute. But I have a couple different projects going on, and if you want to talk ever, feel free to just email me. I could talk forever, like Dr. Dean said. Like, I'm just gonna stop now.
Thank you both. Yeah, as Paige said, there is if you go to our website, there's a whole page, many pages probably devoted to research. And I think pretty much every faculty member has their own website that kind of goes into details about their research. So yeah, and once we kind of get to that December webinar, you'll kind of be able to chat more with those professors and see what they're researching, and talk to them a little bit more about that. Another question I saw, and I did move back to the enrollment slide just so that you had access to that QR code. So if at any point you want to scan that and kind of like hit those buttons, please feel free to do so. So I do see a question that says, if we enroll in the PBA prior to January 8th, then would you be considered enrolled at Clemson? So the way the PBA work they still work on our spring fall schedule. So the process for you right now, if you're looking to get started right this second, is essentially that you would fill out the form to take the PBA courses in the spring semester. And then once you complete them at the end of the spring semester, you would essentially receive admission for the following fall semester. So you would be in the MSCS program officially in the fall semester, fall 2025. So hopefully that makes sense. We do get that question a lot. People usually thinking like, oh my gosh, I have to like crank through these PBA courses before January 8th. That's not the process. It's actually that the enrollment for the PBA starts on January 8th for this spring admission process. And we'll be doing admissions for fall, every fall and spring. So you could, if you're kind of like on the fence about spring 25, or if you know you have a lot of like big projects coming up at work, you're welcome to wait until the fall 25 cohort to kind of, and I say cohort, it's not really a cohort-based program because you can kind of like move through the program at your own pace. But you can get started in that fall 25 semester if that seems like a better fit for you. Cool. Someone asked about the GEM fellowship program. That's a great question, and definitely send that through a enrollment counselor as well. I am familiar with that, but I'm not familiar if like positive if this program is done through it. So, or kind of like more broadly, if anyone has questions about their specific form of funding that they have, definitely reach out to the enrollment counselors. If there's something that they need to kind of like forward onto us, they do that, and we can kind of like touch base with you personally, or just work through the enrollment counselors, whatever makes the most sense. If it's just like an easy question, we might just respond to the enrollment counselor so they can kind of be your primary point of contact. But if it's something more complicated and we kind of need to work through it, they might just kind of send you over to me, and we can talk through that a little bit more. But yeah, if you have any kind of like specific sort of funding in mind, definitely reach out to the enrollment counselor, and we can chat through those options.
I can answer the question about empirical evidence.
Yeah.
So I have worked in industry quite a few times with different companies throughout before, like Clemson. And I was a researcher at Microsoft for a short period of time, and I still collaborate with them on and off. But when I was with them, it was started May 2020. And Microsoft, I worked with Microsoft Research for them. And Microsoft Research is like a giant hub for research at Microsoft, obviously. And they actually split up into another research group, which was only research on AI. So then it was Microsoft Research and Microsoft Research with AI. And they were just like really pushing it, and they still are. It's a really big move considering Microsoft Research doesn't make big changes. And so for me, I think that that's like a really great sign to like know that like learning more about this is really important to get a good job. And you'll see a lot of like job postings about AI, especially like in big cities, like big tech will be having like, I mean, I know Microsoft in Atlanta, the office is great, but what I do know also is that they're hiring a lot of people to work with AI, but also have that software engineering background, and they need to be able to communicate and collaborate in teams because we work as a team typically as a software developer, right? So that's what I have on that for that. I don't know if Dr. Dean, you want to jump in, but I think that was just like, for me, a big eye-opening moment when that happened.
I think nothing too much to add on my side to that.
Awesome, thank you. I do see a lot of questions about timeline, or like, can I change my classes, but like at the start of the semester? So kind of working through that in a couple different ways. Timeline wise, I would say on average, most of our like kind of working professionals are maybe doing two classes per semester. If you're worried about that, it's totally fine to start with one. You do not have to take both of the PBA courses in one semester. You can spread it out. So you could do one of the classes in the spring and then the next one next fall, and then you just wouldn't receive the full admission until you've completed both. So that would be like putting you at a spring 2026 full admission. While you're taking those PBA courses, you're still a Clemson student. You're technically like a non-degree student, which I know sounds kind of scary, but it's really not. You have access to all the Clemson resources. It's just a designator that you have prior to receiving the full admission. So don't stress about that. I don't have the academic calendar linked here, but if you want the link to that, again, reach out to the enrollment counselors and we can provide you the link as well to the academic calendar. But if you're kind of getting into the beginning of the spring semester and you're in 2 courses and you're kind of like, this might be too much, you can drop a course, and there is sort of like a schedule for receiving partial refunds. There is a point when there is no refund and you have to pay for the full course, but we can send you, the schedules for those drops. We link them in the orientation when you're signing up, so you always have that information. And then you also have the academic calendar, which tells you the deadlines for dropping a course without like a grade or it showing on your transcript or anything like that. So there is some flexibility. That January 8th deadline is just the start of classes. And then I think the last day to add a class, like physically add the class, is about a week after that. Usually the last day to drop a class is like a couple weeks after that. And typically our last day to add is also the last day to receive a full refund for the class. So yeah, we definitely don't want you guys like deep into this and being like, wait, this isn't for me. If you kind of get into those initial steps and you're like, this is a lot, and maybe you just want to drop down to a class or whatever, we want to make sure that you're, comfortable. So yeah, so that's the question about kind of like timeline for registration and things like that. The biggest timeline consideration, if you're looking to move through the program really slowly, like maybe 1 class per semester, is that you do have to complete a master's degree in 6 years. So that's a Clemson policy. So if you're looking to do 1 class a semester, it will take you 10 semesters, which is 5 years. So you still have time to even like take a break here and there if you need to. But just keep that in mind if that is the schedule that you're wanting to kind of work on, is that you do need to get it done in 6 years, or the kind of the credits sort of like expire, if you will. I think that kind of answers those questions. Is there anything else? I don't think the syllabi for the PBA courses are currently public. But if you want to learn more about those courses, I definitely recommend watching the webinar. They go into a little bit more detail. Dr. Dean or Dr. Rudiger, do you know if we're posting the syllabi anywhere publicly? I don't think we are.
I'm not aware of anywhere that those are posted publicly. They're not a big secret though, so
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
sharing that
exactly.
information with people.
Yeah, okay. So if you want to reach out to the enrollment counselors, and then we can always forward along a copy of the syllabus. Oh, regarding our own computer station requirements, we'll obviously need a couple of relevant ADEs installed, GitHub, etc. Enough memory space to do coursework. Do you guys want to talk about like what your maybe like at-home requirements are if you're doing this program?
There shouldn't be anything fancy needed as long as you have the ability to, develop code that you can use for your homework assignments. I think you're fine. You don't need a high-end GPU based, local programming environment. The Coursera environment itself online supports most of our, grading and whatnot. So.
I really think any laptop from like 2020 on would be sufficient. In terms of GitHub, I saw GitHub. I'm assuming that means it like the GitHub application running, but you can also just use like command line. You don't need the application. But I really like that you mentioned GitHub, because I highly recommend, if you don't know about GitHub and repositories, learning before joining the PBA courses so that you can build your portfolio while taking these courses.
Oh, thank you. We also do, if you go to Clemson's, I think it's there's like a computer store website, or like the Clemson computer. They have actually all of their computer recommendations for each program. So if you're like in the market for a new computer and you want something that like makes sense, they're technically for like our undergraduates, but like that would definitely be like a good place to start with recommendations as far as like processing power and all of that stuff. I did see a couple questions from international students. So because this is a fully online program, international students are fully welcome to join. There's no residency requirements. The tuition rate's the exact same for anyone in state, out of country. So please, like if you're international, please feel free to join. That's the other really great benefit of that asynchronous content is that, if you're, a 12-hour difference, you're not having to log in the middle of the night for your class. And I do think that we attempted a little bit this semester to try to like cater office hours to be at times that might be slightly different and available for various groups. But if you're ever like really struggling to make office hours, you can always reach out to us. We're happy to help you with that and support our international student body. International students do not qualify for like OPT or anything like that. So it would be sort of like you're taking the program to either like gain more knowledge and work in your fields in your country, or if you're maybe wanting to gain more knowledge to work towards a PhD later on as well. All right. I think we got most of the questions.
One more thing, Becca, for
Yeah.
our international students, just to make it clear for them, as long as you're enrolled in the MS Online, you do not need to pursue a student visa.
Yes, sorry. Yeah. So you do not have to pursue a student visa. You're just in the program just from your home country. So really convenient for people who are not looking to come to the US and just want that really good education from Clemson. All right. Well, I think we'll go ahead and wrap it up. If you have any other questions, been some great questions today. If you have any other questions, please, again, feel free to reach out to the enrollment counselors. They'll either be able to answer your question or they'll put you in touch with us. Again, they're super duper great resources. Thank you so much for everyone who joined today and everyone has questions. It was super engaging and fun. You guys have been great. I hope you have a happy Halloween tomorrow if you celebrate Halloween. Any other notes from anyone else? All right, cool. Everyone have a great day.